friend Jim here with JB's Big Adventure, coming to you from Lake Chapala, Mexico. And that's right, I'm going to be sharing with you the 9 most common rental mistakes that can actually take place that can cause a disaster. Now, I'm sharing this with you because of experience. Not only have I been living here for almost 4 years, but I know of experiences that other people have actually had. I was in real estate for almost 10 years. So I'm very familiar with things that go on, and I fully recognize that things are done a lot differently here in Mexico. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some things that are really important for you to know. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why in fact am I doing a video like this? I mean, for what cause? I mean, our channel that we've got is solely designed to help expats move here to Lake Chapala. I want to make sure, because of our experience was so bad when we first got here, I want to make sure that you don't have to go through that. So I'm actually giving you all these invaluable tips because I care. I care about your experience. I care about you being here. I care about what your life is going to be like once you're here. When you get here to Lake Chapala, or I should say when you get into Mexico, when you've got a high concentration of expats, you basically have a target on your back. Now, what does that mean? That means that other people know that you're a visitor or that you're an expat. You might be a temporal or a permanente, but still, because of the fact there's a language barrier, unless you know the language fully, which there are people that do. It's really important to know some things that I really believe that are important for you to know. Now, there are scams that take place here, just like they do in the States. The difference is there's some things that are done a little bit differently here than they are in the States. So when you see properties, for example, like on Facebook, or you see them on other social media feeds, just know it's really important to be careful to the voice that you're listening to. So let's just do this. Let's jump right to the 9 invaluable tips. The first is know who's listing the property. Who is listing the property? Is it the owner? Is it the rental management company? Is it the rental agent? Is it a real estate agent? Now, here's something you need to know about real estate agents here. It doesn't take any kind of classes or experience or education or testing, nothing. All it takes is a business card. Now, there's going to be those that are going to say, well, you know what? Mexico's changed. They're actually requiring everybody to have a certain type of certification. Well, I'll tell you what, I know of realtors right now that have already shared with me that they're not going to go through and get certified, but they're still able to sell houses. They're still able to rent stuff out. I think it's a real mistake. But Mexico just does not, when it comes to enforcing things, they're not necessarily right on track, as we would call it in the States. So it's important to know who's listing the property. Second, do they do it full-time or just part-time? Here's why that's important. Because if they're active, they're going to be experienced. They're going to know where the best deals on rentals are going to be. They're going to know where not to rent. What are the best neighborhoods to rent into? Which ones are the safest? Which ones are close to everything? They're going to have a knowledge of the marketplace, whether rents in this area are high or whether they're low. Also, are they reputable? Is it something that they've been doing for a while so they really know what the market is like here? That's important. Another important tip. You want to make sure before you sign a contract that you've got a real estate attorney review it for you. Not just somebody that says, hey, they're a realtor, or somebody just says that, hey, I know contracts, I'm from Mexico, or I've been here for a long time, or whatever it may be. If they're not a realtor, that's a really important thing. I have got stories galore that I can share with you, but I'll share one with you right now that really comes to mind because it was something that I had a discussion with somebody and they actually went and did something different. And that is, you go sign a rental contract. Well, when you're signing it, the majority of times it's all going to be in Spanish. Yes, and they'll say, well, we'll go ahead and translate it to English for you. Well, let me let you know something. If there ends up being an issue, the Spanish contract is the one that actually supersedes. That means that that's the important one. That's the one that the courts are going to go by. That's really, really important. So this gentleman actually brought his mom down. They rented a house in a nice community. It turned out that within the second week, the mother had fallen. Well, she fell. They'd been there for 2 weeks, and they felt, well, it's not going to be a good place for them to live. Well, they were paying $2,000 a month on rent. And so what ended up happening was he went to get out of the contract because he needed to have his mom somewhere that was safer. It turned out he got told that he actually signed 3 promissory notes. 3. And those promissory notes basically said that the landlord, the owner, is going to be given 100% of what their rental was for an entire year. That's the term, for a year. That means at $2,000, it would have cost him $24,000 to get out of the contract. That's a good time to have an attorney to be able to review the contract to make sure that you're not getting in that kind of a deal. Because that is something I've already talked to another real estate attorney that's confirmed that that's legal in Mexico. Would that be important for you to know? Would it be important for you to know that you know all the hidden stuff that's in there, the things that are really important that you need to know about? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want you to have to go through that kind of an experience. Being representative by a local agent, somebody that knows the area. I've got friends of mine that actually went to buy a house, and my realtor actually took them, they were talking about a place that they would like to go and take a look at a house. And it turned out it's a new area, but there's no water. And she let them know that there's no water. Now, how important of a thing is that? You're taking a look at maybe a certain neighborhood or whatever it may be and find out that there's issues there. Maybe the plumbing, maybe the pressure is not good. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen. Would that be important for you to know about up front? Absolutely. So making sure that you've got somebody that knows the area, that's representing you, that's got your back. Full disclosure. This is another really important tip. Does the area that you're looking at renting it have reliable utilities? If there's a power outage, is it out for a long period of time? If it's electricity, is it out for a long period of time? That's important to know. How about, can you flush the toilet paper down the toilet? There's neighborhoods you can't do that. How about the water pressure? Does it have really good water pressure for you? Who pays for what? If something breaks or the faucet goes out or whatever it may be, who takes care of that bill? What utilities are included, if any, in the rents? How about, are you able to get fast internet speed? If that's important to you, that's something you're going to want to know about. So if in fact internet speed's important to you, well, then it's important to know what neighborhoods actually you can get high-speed internet in, if in fact it doesn't already have it. I mentioned earlier about the utility outages. Here's another one. How about when you're going to pay the rent? Are you paying it in pesos or are you paying in US dollars? Here's the difference. If you're paying it in pesos, you're going to be going to the ATM machine, unless you have a bank account, the ATM machine probably several times, maybe 2 or 3 days in a row to get the total amount. Not all banks allow you to get thousands upon thousands of US dollars out of the bank. They're all different. They're all different. So there's somewhat of an inconvenience when it comes around rent time about going and doing that. Now, Barbara and I, we've got a place where the landlord, who's Mexican, they're here, but they've also got a bank account in the States. So we're able to actually Zelle them the rent. Barbara Zells it to them every first of the month, and it's there immediately. They've got it. And so that's a beautiful, I mean, that's a game changer, because that's really convenient to be able to do it that way. Okay. Another tip, is it long-term or short-term? Long-term rentals are going to get you a better monthly rental. Short-terms are not. The reason it's short-term, so you've got a house that's only renting for 6 months. Normally it's probably because a snowbird owns it. They've gone up during the low season. They've gone back up to Canada or to the northern part of the States or in the eastern part of the States where it snows. And they're going to be coming back after 6 months. So what's important to know is, what is the rental for? Is it long-term or is it short-term? Understanding the implications of both. I mean, you don't all of a sudden think you're renting something for a year and ends up being only 6 months. Would that be important to you? Understanding is another tip, understanding deposits. Now, when it comes to rental, you're 99% of the time it's going to be first month's, last month's, and also deposit. And the deposit's equal to 1 month of rental. So what you're looking at is going to be, let's say, for example, it's renting for $1,000. I mean, you're going to be come up with $3,000 before you move in. Well, here's what happens. And if you've got pets, then in fact, there's probably going to be a pet deposit that could be the same $1,000. So that could be $4,000. So it all depends on who it is you're talking to, the property, the circumstances with the property. So those are important things that you want to make sure that you know about. So if you're moving to a place and let's say, for example, that you give the deposit, well, there are some places that will save that for a couple of months for you, if in fact you're doing that before you come back down. There's a lot of things that can take place, and it's really important to know the implications that go along with understanding the deposits. Okay, this is another huge tip that's really important to know, and that is the cost of breaking a contract. I mentioned to you earlier that if you're actually going to try to buy yourself out of the contract, it's important to know what that is going to be. How much is that if you end up having to do that? You lose your last month, you lose your deposit, you would also lose your pet deposit. Oh, and also something else. To find a place that's actually pet friendly might take a little bit of doing. Not everybody here that has a rental is willing to accept dogs or willing to accept cats or won't accept pets at all. When we first moved here, that was the way it was with our first rental. The community that we were in, they did not allow pets. So I promised Barbara, since she's a dog rescuer, that we would make sure that we would move somewhere where we're able to have access to her being able to get a pet. So those are important things to know in advance. But I was talking about breaking the lease. There's a WhatsApp group that I'm familiar with. This is not something that everybody knows about, but I want you to know about this. There are a whole group of realtors and rental agents that are part of this WhatsApp group. And if you're someone that goes and breaks a lease, your name goes on this, I'm going to call it a blacklist, for nothing better than that. That if in fact, if you've broken the lease, that your name's going to be on there. So when you go to try to get into another place and you're having to get a reference or whatever it may be, I mean, just realize that what can very well happen is find out your name's on there. And that could possibly be a determining factor for you to be able to get that next rental house that you so desire. So it's important that you take into consideration each one of these tips, 9 tips that I've shared with you, if in fact you want to be able to have a great experience of renting a place here at Lake Chapala. Some I will say, if you find something online that you really have your heart set on, and as you're looking at it, all the pictures are done with a widescreen camera, widescreen lens, you're welcome to reach out to me. I have a service, and what I do is I actually go and do a video of the inside and the outside of the rental that you have an interest in, like you be in here. I go do that. I set it up with the realtor, with the rental agent, the owner, whoever it may be. And I go do that video. I do the video of the inside, outside, front yard, backyard, up and down the neighborhood. I also put a drone in the air when in fact I'm in an area that I can do that legally. And so that's something, a service I provide. It's $200 per home, per house, that I'm actually going to $300 on it. But right now, you're watching this video, I do it right now for just $200. And what I do is it's about an hour video. It takes me about 3 hours to edit it. And what I do then is I actually send you that link, and you've got access to that video, and you can get a real true feeling of what that place is all about. And then normally what happens is afterwards, we're having a conversation. You're asking me, was there a washer and was there a washing machine and a dryer? Was there this and that? I mean, all kinds of things end up coming up. I know one person that actually was looking at a place, and it being that they had a lot of plants, and she didn't want to have a lot of plants at her place. So you just never know. And those kind of things are really important to know in advance when in fact you're looking at renting a place. So if you have an interest in getting in contact with me with that, there is actually my email address is inside the description of this video. So with that, I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel and actually providing support for this community. You have an awesome day, and we'll see you on the next video.